Welcome, Caroline Birdsell from the Gopher Soccer team. Caroline, thanks so much for joining us
Of course, I'm glad I could join.
for the way inside baseball that no one needs to care about. The quirks of the fall soccer schedule meant last week the Gophers had an off day on Tuesday. We were trying to get Caroline after her epic debut for the Gopher program, but want players to have the day off. We fully respect it. So happy to have you this week, Caroline.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Well, let's jump right in. We mentioned it last week, but obviously having you here, we got to re-hype this up. You had a brace in your first ever game at Elizabeth L. Robbie Stadium. What did it feel like now that you have a chance to sort of have the adrenaline down? What did it feel like for that to be your debut for the Gophers?
It's kind of crazy because, I was playing in the spring, so I've been
Yeah.
playing with these girls for a while now, and, we
Hmm.
had our exhibitions. So to me, it just felt like another game and, a couple more goals. But, after the game, I kind of went on my phone and I realized I was like, whoa, this is actually pretty cool. But, I'm just excited to be part of it. And,
Hmm.
this team is something special. And I think this year it's going to be exciting for sure.
Yeah, I feel like I've said it a million times, but I feel like if people are seeing you for the first time or hearing about you for the first time, I always have to remind folks you were just so hyped up by the staff last year. They were so excited about you coming in. You had an unfortunate injury the spring before your freshman Gopher season. So last year you had to redshirt. But there was this funny quirk where you were kind of around doing pregame stuff because you had a little while and so you weren't fully cleared, but you were sort of doing a lot of soccer stuff in front of us at ELR. And so there was this funny sort of dissonance of, man, she looks like she's like really doing stuff. But obviously, ACL recovery is a lot more than just can I jog and dribble. But that was sort of a big journey for you. Did it like what was that like for you emotionally and mentally to sort of have in your head, oh, I'm gonna start college and here's what it's going to be like, and then all of a sudden this devastating injury where it's going to be such a long recovery? What was that like sort of emotionally and mentally going through that era?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I actually got injured November
Uh-huh.
of my senior year, which I tore
Gotcha.
up piece of my cartilage on my left knee,
Uh-huh.
and I just got a scope. So they basically just removed that piece, and I
Right.
rehabbed for about 2 months, and I was back training, and had my first game back, and I tore my ACL. So it's
Oh.
kind of it's every athlete's worst nightmare. I get back from injury 3 months, and then I got a long road ahead of me now. So
Oh.
obviously, now that I'm looking back on it, I am like, just like, this is just, it's fueled me and I'm so excited to be back. But,
Yeah.
in the moment, it's miserable, but it's also eye-opening. You get a new perspective on everything. So,
Yeah.
there's many ups and downs, but, now that I'm on the other side of it, I see so many like blessings in disguise. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, was is part of that recovery process. I feel like every time we have someone on who's dealt with a serious injury like that, part of what I think through is just how isolating it might feel or how much lonelier it might feel. I mean, so much of the positive vibes you all talk about of like being on a team or anyone being on a team is like, oh, it's like a family. Oh, we're always spending time together. Oh, we're always hanging out. And then all the recovery stuff, I mean, you're doing it with the strength folks and the performance folks and the, recovery folks. And like, there are literally some people with you, but compared to being on the team, I have to imagine part of the stress is just being so much more isolated, feeling like you're quote unquote not as much part of the team, all of those struggles. Was that sort of part of the stress of it too? Just not just the fact that I'm not playing, but then also, oh, I feel like I'm actually not as fully like with the team every day.
Yeah, for sure. Not only was I coming in as a freshman, but I was coming in as an injured freshman. So,
Yeah.
these none of these players have ever seen me play except for
Yeah.
the coaches. So, I had to kind of work harder to like on the social aspect. Like I really had to put in the time outside, like
Yeah.
or not on the field. I had to really put in the work and just make my relationships off the field.
Yeah.
Which was it was different. I've always really been like a lead by example. That's kind of what I've always been by. So,
Yeah.
I saw a different perspective of it all, but it's all kind of part of like the growth. And yeah, it was hard at times, but I got to get close with different types of people and maybe people I
Uh-huh.
wouldn't have been close with. So, there's many blessings through it all, even though it might not look like it on the outside.
Yeah. Who are some of those people that you like unexpectedly got to be close with? Or are you talking about like the folks actually helping you with rehab, like Tori and everybody?
Oh yeah, well for sure Tori and Benito. I
Uh-huh.
love them. They are the best. They have helped me through, a whole year of rehab. And then,
Yeah.
Maddie Shannon, she medically retired, but
Yeah.
me and her were best buddies. We did all these touches together on the sidelines,
Yeah.
we didn't travel. So there's some people who didn't travel also.
Yep.
So I also got really close with all of them as well. So, I got different types of relationships that last year, and I'm really grateful for all of them.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I was wondering too if there was like is there any you kind of already did it, but if there was any like teammates in particular, like players on the roster in particular who were sort of most helpful for you and like making you still feel included, or if you want to shout anyone out for like someone just like really giving a shit about you and showing like the random gesture that, because when you're in a space like that, any random little gesture can be so much more meaningful to you than people would realize, I'm sure. Like I'm thinking of times where when you're feeling like shit or you're just like not feeling that great, like some random thing can be so much more meaningful than it might seem like. Were there moments like that or people like that who did that for you?
I think that's like what makes our team so special is like it
Yeah.
it wasn't one person. Like
Yeah.
I can name name after name after name after name. Like I had
Yeah.
people texting me every day. I had people coming after me at practice, giving me a pat on the back when I'm doing my workout on the sidelines, like it's a community here, and like I would not have been able to get through it all without my teammates and the staff, and just I am so grateful for where I am right now. And obviously it was unfortunate the events that lined up to, me coming here, but in a
Yeah.
way, I have a different perspective, and I've more of, I've never wanted to be out in the field more than I do now. So it kind of gives me more of an extra push, and my teammates have been a big part of that.
Yeah. Is there any added now perspective you have, like Katie Crone, if folks haven't been following? I don't think I ever posted about it because it's always sort of weird to decide when to post a lot about someone having like a devastating injury. But Katie posted to her own Instagram story, like public Instagram story. So I think and people probably have seen her on crutches and stuff. But new transfer Katie Crone came in and enrolled in the spring, but she unfortunately had her own, ACL injury or leg injury. Did it having like a teammate go through it after you? Now, do you have sort of like a different added perspective of like, oh, okay, maybe she'll need this or maybe she'll need that because that's stuff that you appreciated going through it yourself?
Yeah, you never wish an injury like that upon somebody, and it's obviously a big bummer. She's an amazing player,
Yeah.
but she's strong and she'll be able to get through it, and I'm here for her. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, she clearly just wanted to play with you more of her career, right? Delay it out, sync it up
Mhm.
better with you for sure. We'll say that's the reason. And so, well, enough injury talk, making you go back in the past. Let's hype you up. Let's talk about it, your game more. So you had those 2 goals in the first game. You had what I would describe as like an unofficial assist in the St. Thomas game where you got out on the break, got a nice ball in from the wing. It was actually sort of an unreal save by Olivia Rowe for St. Thomas. And then Khyah, because Olivia Rowe had come all the way up, Khyah hit a banger on the rebound to get a goal. So I don't think that'll go in the books as an assist to you, but that's the type of thing where I would count it as an assist. But either way, both games you've been playing great, been really active on the front line. If folks haven't seen you play, if they haven't tuned in yet, other than me hyping the shit out of you or whatever, talk about sort of what you like to bring to the game and just like how you describe sort of your value on the field or sort of what you want to be up top for the team.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, the player I've always been is I'll be gritty and I will give everything out in the field. And,
Mm-hmm.
that's a controllable. You can control how hard you work. You can
Mm-hmm.
control how hard you press. You can control how hard you go into tackles. So
Yeah.
that's something that I will always do because, I don't want to leave the field thinking I could have given more.
Uh-huh.
But, coming to the college level, things are a lot more intense, and, you can't always just be like, go, go, go. So
Uh-huh.
I've kind of tried to like keep it more composed with my play, and that's where the midfield and Khyah and just other people that I've been playing with have really helped me with my play. And I think this year, our front line, our midfield, our defenders, goalkeepers, I think everywhere in the field we have something special, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited to contribute to it.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned your grittiness. I think if folks watch your post game interview, I asked you about it a little bit because I went and watched, I saw both exhibitions that you played, which weren't streamed, and then have seen these 2 games. And maybe even in the spring, I'm remembering this. I can't quite remember. For those who haven't watched Caroline play yet, one, you obviously have to, but if you haven't watched her play yet, there was this funny trend of, especially in the exhibitions, where you were getting whistled a lot. And so, like, there would be these plays where it was mostly shoulder to shoulder, or at least within the vein of it could go either way. And you sort of had like a string of what could be described as like bad luck, or like multiple 50-50s just continue to go against you. And then when you have fouls that are legitimately against you, like that's okay. But then these add on top of it where it's just like this pattern. And it was always been funny to watch your reaction to like, what the, like the, when players get a call that's wrong or when they think it's wrong, it's always the best to like see how you react. Has it felt, like maybe not the level of physicality, but like the way to use physicality already? Are you feeling sort of, oh, I might get caught for this, I might not get caught for that? Have you been able to pick up sort of elements of, I want to play big, I want to play physical, but here's maybe how I have to do it? Have you already had a sense of like, oh, I need to sharpen my antenna for like what they're calling here, what they're calling there?
Yeah, for sure. It's a definitely much more competitive than I was in high school, which is fun. This
Uh-huh.
level, like this is fun to me. I love it. And
Yeah.
I get into like some tackles and that happens though. And
Yeah.
I would like I might look upset on the field, but after the game, like I would never hold that against somebody.
Yeah.
We all want the same thing at the end of the day. So yeah, in the moment the emotions are heightened, but it's all part of the game, which is kind of fun. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I forgot to sort of mention, people obviously can't see like your size and your height and whatever now. But if you go and watch a game, Caroline is like a tall, like strong, tall forward, and you really use your frame actively. Like you're not an unbelievably jacked, huge, oversized player, but you are tall, you are strong, and you use those things. Like you are going to use your size, you're going to use your athleticism. And so it is just clearly part of your game too. The same tools that make you so good at bursting by a defender and ripping off a shot is the same reason why you can burst toward a defender and like be sturdy and have a solid base and like push them off the ball. So I forgot to mention that like just that physicality and that using your frame is clearly such a big part of your game. And so it makes sense that it would come and play in the defensive way, but not every forward really always brings that defensively either. Have you felt unique in that sense, or has that just always been so much a part of your game that it just feels like, well, no, this is how I play?
It's kind of funny that you mentioned this because growing up, I was always like that very small, like didn't have much muscle. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I got pushed off the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And then I, have two injuries back to back. And, I was in the weight room almost every single day. So
Yeah.
I was really, really focusing on just like gaining muscle and just, doing everything I possibly can to come back stronger.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that that's helped my game, especially at this level. Everybody's strong, everybody's fast, everybody's athletic. So,
Yeah.
if I can get up there with that strength, I think it's definitely been beneficial. So,
Yeah.
yeah, being in the weight room after an injury it sucks in the moment, but now that I'm back out on the field, it's definitely a plus for
Yeah.
sure.
It's also the thing of the injuries were a part of it. And so that meant you were in there more, or maybe had more focus on it or whatever. It's also just true, at least I think, that there's no bigger jump for a college player than from that freshman year to the sophomore year. Like, if folks are really hardcore Gopher fans and they watch, a ton of games, if you saw Paige Khyah like this fall compared to when you watch her last fall, like she clearly has been working her ass off, because you look at even, she's still the same height and whatever, and it doesn't look like she's really gotten like huger, but she does look more angular in terms of her movement, in terms of like using her strength. And immediately when I saw her this fall and then saw you, I kept thinking of like, this is literally what it looks like to be in a performance program for a year. Like that, we literally are seeing you go from very talented, very athletic, all these things. And then you add on top of it, okay, now here's like dedicated time to getting stronger and leaner and whatever. And it's so crazy to see that jump in just a year. It's crazy to see, because I mean, what it says to me as a physically lazy human being is like, good Lord, the amount of time you guys are putting into this is like so unreal. There's not really anything to respond to, just me babbling about strengths program. So I am curious too. The Gophers this year are going out largely. It's been a two front with you and Khyah up top, and then off the bench we're seeing Taylor Heimerl and Aaron Gabriel, which is really fun. To see them in those spots, and tons of the young players are just really showing out in a cool way. But you and Khyah up top was sort of that midfield shape beneath you. As I've said for years, the Gophers are just absolutely drunk on central midfielders. So like finding some way to combine Romine, Paige, Bowman, Kate, like all these players, and then off the bench this year with Evelyn and it's just like sort of Avery. I mean, it's Allie. It's just embarrassment of riches. But for you in that two front, how has that felt for you compared to other times? Are you someone who traditionally has played more central? Have you played out on the wing? Where do you traditionally, or where have you before this been asked to sort of spend most of your time?
Yeah, I actually was the 10, so I started as the attacking mid, and I slowly
Sure.
just made my way up the field, kind
Yeah.
of. At club, I always played like the
Mm-hmm.
9, the
Mm-hmm.
11, 7. I was always kind of more like up top, but
Yeah.
in the two front, I definitely really like playing with Khyah. We play really well together. We know how to
Yeah.
combine, and I've never been able to play with a player like her, and it's
Yeah.
definitely a really fun experience just to have that talent next to me, underneath that. Like
Yeah.
there's so much talent out there. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been fun.
I think I watched the exhibitions and I was talking to Mary Casper, who does the color commentary on the broadcast. I do the play by play. And I was trying to describe to Mary, I'll like update her on the players she's seen before and talk to her about the new players and whatever. And the thing I said to Khyah was like, Khyah so clearly either like must absolutely love playing next to you, or like if she doesn't realize it yet, like she looks so good playing next to another true forward, but in that two front, because the Gophers have had a string of sort of trying to figure out how to use this front line. Like, do we do a three front? Do we sort of have a lone striker? And then there's kind of mids who play, it's the whole, like, how do we shape this front six? And this is, I think the first time we've seen really like a dedicated two front with like two true forwards. And it's wild to see sort of her play in that setup, like her benefit from you drawing attention and your movement and whatever. And so she has looked, not surprisingly, she got a hat trick against St. Thomas, got named Big Ten Player of the Week. But
Yeah.
she, I think other folks have said it's also the first time she was fully healthy throughout the offseason. But she's come in and looked, pretty good other years, but nothing compared to this. I think partly because of that sort of combination that you two have. Did you feel that sort of developing like over the spring? Was it more something that came together by the time the new full group was here this fall? When did you start feeling sort of that combination clicking for you?
Yeah, well, I think that some people forget that, I am a redshirt freshman, but all
Yeah.
last fall I had the opportunity to watch my team. So,
Right.
I wasn't like not there. Like I was there
Yeah.
watching. I got to pick up traits on people and how people play and what they like and, how they take communication, all those like little aspects.
Yeah.
And then I got in the mix in the spring. So I had about 3 months to play with Khyah and to play with, Taylor, Paige, all these other people up top.
Yep.
And then we come in July and everything gets like going and stuff. And,
Mm-hmm.
we've always played well together. Like, I respect her, she respects me. And,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we've both been able to, put the ball in the back of the net. So that's what really matters. And, I'm really excited for her to get her first career hat trick and Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week. That's huge. And, it just shows all the work that she's put into. She's had her fair share of injuries too. And,
Yeah.
player to player, when somebody's gone through something like that and also something that I've gone through, it's down to kind of like a respect thing. Like we both know we want this really, really bad this year,
Yeah.
especially after injuries like that.
Yeah. Listen, if the forward line for the Gopher soccer team can collect Big Ten honors every single week, I think the team will be doing okay this fall. I,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear based on how you've showed early in your career here why the Gophers wanted you. It's pretty clear we can see from your game why they talked to you and pursued you. But for you, what made Minnesota a good fit? You're from Illinois, so and a player of your caliber, I'm sure, was recruited by just like everybody. But for you, what made Minnesota sort of the right fit for your college career?
Yeah. I have two older sisters, and they both went to school here. So I kind of grew up visiting this school.
Uh-huh.
And I never really like considered like the soccer part. I wasn't really thinking about that. I was pretty young. And
Yeah.
then recruiting comes around, and Minnesota was definitely one of my top schools. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really connect with the head coach as much. I wasn't
Yeah.
able to talk to them. And then
Mm-hmm.
Erin comes in, which Erin is from my hometown. I've known her for many years now, and
Yeah.
everything was falling into place. Like I didn't have one thing that I was like, I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it was exactly what I wanted. The education, my family here,
Mm-hmm.
the coaching staff, the team culture, the field. The field is special,
Yeah.
especially being in it now. It's like I love everything about it, and
Right.
there's never been one day that I regret my decision coming here.
Yeah. What do your sisters do? I mean, by the way, that's a very classic story. Minnesota gets like a ton of its people by just like, oh, my spouse went to the U and so I went to, or oh, my sisters went there. This is like such a classic. By the way, U of M, put Caroline in the admissions materials, baby. Put the Birdsell family on the admissions materials. But what do your sisters do? Are they still in the Twin Cities?
My oldest sister graduated 2 years ago. She's in Colorado now, and then my middle sister, she is going to be a senior this year. So
Okay.
they both go to just school here. They are in CEHD.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so they both grew up playing soccer. They never went to the collegiate
Yeah.
level, but they are loving this and living through my dream. I've dreamed of this all my life. Just
What
being an NCAA Big Ten. It's
yeah.
amazing.
What's your middle sister's name?
Her name's Jenna.
Jenna, we're pitching you
Yeah.
right now. You've played soccer, you know the game. Come on to Equal Time, baby. Open offer. Come in and analyze some games for us, baby. This
Yeah,
is
she
but
she loves it.
by the way, my wife is an academic advisor in CEHD, so
Okay,
there's at least some chance that they randomly run into each other, which would be really funny.
that would
Um,
be great.
well, also the last thing I want to give you a chance to shout out. We're not in training every day. We watch the games. I'm hype about the games. I'll talk to the coaches once in a while, but there's no way I see everything that you see day in and day out. And the Gopher rotation can be, when games are really tight, the rotation can be tight. Like there's tons of players who I'm sure give a ton to the program that we don't see on game day or I don't see on game day or whatever. Just wanted to give you a chance if there's any players that you see sort of really busting their ass in training every day, but maybe, I have never shouted them out on Equal Time because I'm not seeing what they're doing every day or whatever. Are there any players you just want to like give a shout out to in terms of, oh man, even if they're not getting a chance on Thursdays and Sundays, man, they're bringing so much to the team because of X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, that's kind of a tough question because this team, like it's
Mm-hmm.
everybody.
Yeah.
That's what makes this team special is like there's not like one person. Like if you're not working hard at practice, somebody will call you out and you will be working again in a second.
Yeah.
Which that's what makes it so special. It's a family, and we are there to make each other better. And it's not just the starters or people that might get more media coverage. Like it is
Right.
everybody on that team, and that's why we've been successful so far. It's because everybody's putting in the work at practice and everybody's getting better each day. And that also comes with our staff too. They
Yeah.
push us, even if they're our midfield coach, they will still help the defenders, forwards. Everybody's there to get 1% better
Yeah. I
at
love hearing
least.
about that little accountability part of it too, because there's been times where the team actually has really, really good vibes. And in my head, I'm almost like, no one's really talked about like holding each other accountable this whole time. No one needs to be jerks to each other, but I love the idea that like you have to push each other and you have to be willing to like raise each other's bar because you all are so good already, but you all also have such ridiculous potential. Like if you push each other in like a supportive, pushy friend way, sister way, whatever, it just can help bring that out of you. So I like that, Caroline. That's good.
Mhm.
That's good. Well,
Yes, the game. It's
Caroline
fun.
Birdsell, absolute rock star on the front line for the Gopher soccer team. They play against Milwaukee on Thursday. We will have the live highlights for you. They play against Marquette on Sunday. So the Milwaukee double over there, the first time in your career, Caroline. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.